vlogging to you from last night.
Yes, happy Valentine's Day. We hope you're had a good Valentine's Day with a loved one, or not a loved one. And remember, you can have a great Valentine's Day alone, or you could not celebrate it and it doesn't matter.
Or you can celebrate how much you love you.
That's true. You should love you.
You should. There's noises in the background, and the fact that John is cooking our Valentine's dinner right now, too.
Yeah, it's significantly louder than I thought it would be, so I may be in and out to deal with that.
Yeah, so we just have 3 questions today because they're kind of Valentine's-related questions, so we figured we'd talk about them.
Yep.
So the first one is just if you ever had a virgin goddess break her chastity in your games, and if so, were there any consequences? What happened?
Okay.
I don't know what the fascination is for you guys with virgin goddesses breaking their chastity like all the time. Like, if that was something they were going to do, I feel like they would have done it the last 4,000 years.
A lot of virgin god chastity breaking questions lately.
Yeah, it's really weird. But anyway, officially, no.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows that that's actually happening. Unofficially, there have been some suggestions that it might be happening, but in the plot, the players haven't found out whether that's actually true or not.
Right.
One of the examples is that one of the PCs from our Eastern Promises game, Shadon, is actually a Scion of Ard, and he believes, at least, that he's an actual biological Scion of Ard, which would be difficult because she is a virgin goddess.
Right.
So, whether or not that's true, what that means, he definitely knows he's not supposed to let anyone know he exists.
Yes.
So that kind
she
of
definitely came by and was like, hey, don't tell
you're
anybody.
hiding.
Yeah. Don't
tell anyone, especially my brother. So that suggests that there might actually be real reproduction there. And he kind of has a sense that maybe his mother is not entirely a virgin deity by choice, that maybe her brother's a little overprotective of her. But we don't actually know for certain.
Right.
No one has actually investigated that. I mean, they're still only like Legend 4, Legend 5, so... so that it remains to be seen what is actually going on there. And then the other one?
Other one is post-Ragnarok. The PCs caught Huitzilopochtli and Athena kind of hanging out together, holding hands. There was some kissing, I believe, at some point.
Yeah, only one person's actually seen that. It was Vivian. Vivian walked in on them maybe kissing a little over coffee in a coffee shop. And I believe the phrasing was, "Don't ever tell my daughter about this, get out." And then he threw some stuff at her.
Something like that. So they had been, the PCs kind of hadn't known they were the one relationship in the group of the gods of the original PCs that people weren't sure about.
Yeah.
And so...
there was a lot of... Those gods definitely hung out together, but no one was really sure what their relationships were.
Right, like Loki really and Huitzilopochtli have like been best friends.
Had a friendship,
like, over the thing.
Yeah. There was some very weird stuff with Shango in there, because he just didn't...
Well, he wasn't originally PC.
Yeah, exactly, because of Marcus.
But like Baldur ended up like hanging out with Huitzilopochtli a little bit, and there was like a Baldur Loki Huitzilopochtli thing going on.
So there was definitely what looked like dating-esque behavior, but we don't actually know what that means. Like whether that means she's breaking her chastity or plans to break her chastity or not. She might not. She might just like him and like.
And a lot of things have happened
since then. That was a while ago. Nobody ever checked in on that or tried to figure it out. And it's been a long time since the PCs have seen either one of them, so who knows?
Yeah.
So that's all we got for that. Alright, our second question is, which gods or goddesses do you ship, even if they might not have an official relationship in mythology?
Weird question.
I really wanted to ask this without telling John about it ahead of time, because I figured he'd make that face.
What do we ship?
I mostly ship... I know, I'm boring. I ship things that are canon. I like people that are actually in relationships and like that I enjoy. Like,
does that count as shipping?
Yeah, you can ship things that are canon. You can say I ship...
What does ship stand for?
Relationship. I can say I ship Zeus and Hera.
But they have a relationship already. So what is the shipping part?
It just means that I'm really into that relationship. I support that. I like it. I want to talk about it. I want to make art or write or whatever it is you want to do.
It sounds like I relationship people that aren't already relationship. Like I'm forcing them to have a relationship. Well, that's what it sounds like the word is for.
Well, you can also say, well, I ship... people that are already in a relationship, I support that as opposed to the shippers that want people that are... It's a whole thing, but yes, you can ship people that are actually together.
Okay, I disagree.
Okay.
I think whoever invented the word didn't mean for it to be used that way.
Well, it's definitely used that way now. So.
Okay.
But at any rate.
I don't ship anyone weird.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Like, I can think of ones other people have suggested, like Hermes and Hecate, but I can't think of anything.
So I like regular mythology and the relationships that exist there.
Yeah.
Like, those are really interesting to me, so I don't make up ones.
Yeah, and I have more anti-ships, too. Like, I'm like, Nana, you should dump those losers and run away. Like, you should go. I have more, like, this relationship's toxic, everyone stop.
Yeah.
But there are, like, most of the ones that I ship are, like, Zeus and Hera, or Hades and Persephone, or, I'm drawing a blank. people who are not Greek, what is happening?
I like, wow, Ptah and Sekhmet.
Ptah and Sekhmet, okay.
Ptah and Sekhmet are really interesting.
I like Set and Nephthys, actually. I think that's neat that they get to hang out together and have some myths where they...
Anubis and his sad wife.
I don't know, ship that one. That ended really horribly.
Right, but that was someone else's fault.
He murdered her. It was totally her fault.
Wasn't his, though.
Alright, it wasn't his, that's just true. Well, except for the part where he murdered her. That was on his initiative.
He was probably in the right.
Oh, man. So...
yeah. What about Testalapoca and that woman he rapes and makes badgers?
No, let's, no.
It's possums.
Those are Quetzalcoatl's daughters, both of them.
That he rapes.
It's not okay.
His nieces.
Nothing about that is romantic.
Possums.
Turn it off.
You didn't say it would be romantic shipping. The relationship is...
You're a weird dude. You're ready for the bells of the internet. Oh my god. So, yeah, I don't have anything weird to bring up.
I don't have anything interesting.
I can't think of any, aside from, we already talked about a thing in Quetzalcoatl, I can't think of too many cases where God's, picked up new relationships in our games that I was really invested in.
Not really. Well, it's because the PCs are the main characters, so there's no...
Yeah, we aren't, following what the gods are doing, soap opera-esque when they're not in the game. They don't matter unless they're interacting with the PCs. Jupiter married to Chelsea with right now. That's going fine, but we don't see their home life, so I don't know what that means, really.
Yeah.
But, okay. So last question, and I think the most interesting one. In honor of Valentine's Day, could you tell us about some of your favorite romantic relationships in the games that you've run or played?
Aww.
Yeah, and our PCs have many romantic relationships because the stories are about that. John's going to go be an Italian man and cook me dinner, so I'll talk about it a little bit while he's gone. So, let's see. In the original Sunday group, you had Jeff and Sangria, of course, and they actually got a whole music fan mix post for them earlier last week, so they don't need a lot of talking about. But they were a surprise relationship. There was an accident. Pan blew a bacchanalia. They accidentally had to have sex, and then she got pregnant. And then Jeff was like, "Well, I want to be responsible and be a dad." And then they evolved into this whole years spanning relationship, and are very, very cute now. So they're one of my favorites all time. I'm very biased, obviously, but. Not a lot of great relationships in that group. That group is very tempestuous, and so a lot of their relationships just kind of fell through.
I like Goz's.
That was what I was going with. I think the last one that was really a big solid one was Goz and Circe, which is a weird relationship to be solid because, of course, Goz assaulted Circe when he first met her, and it was really bad and really horrible. And he spent years trying to atone for that without ever seeing her. And around when he became a god, he finally got her father to say, "Okay, well, I'll forgive you for that, and we'll stop trying to kill you, but you have to marry her." And so they ended up getting married, and they were both kind of not cool with it because, she had vengeance against him and didn't like him at all, and he was marrying her because he wanted to do the right thing, but he knew she hated him, and so it was really uncomfortable. But they put a lot of effort in trying to make it work, and by the very end of it, they kind of got together enough to say, "Look, we're going to have kids together, we're going to have a life together, you're trying your best, I'm trying my best. Let's try to..." And they were just starting to really come together as a couple and really like each other when Ragnarok hit, and then Ragnarok happened to them. But so I think they went pretty well. Marcus never had any stable relationships in his life. Neither did Chuck. Sophia, of course, as John would like you to know, Sophia has a deep and burning love affair on only her side, where she's in love with another Scion. Am I supposed to tell people about this?
I guess so. It's up to you because you're writing it later, right?
Yeah, no, Sophia is apparently super head over heels in love with JOTs, but because Sophia is like a sociopathic troll woman and she can't interact with people appropriately, either he doesn't know or he knows and is avoiding the shit out of her, which is reasonable. So a lot of her, she has a lot of internal feelings that never become an actual relationship there, so that's kind of sad, but it happens, The other god level group was Aurora's group. We started out with Vivian and John Doe, and they were supposed to be a having fun, we're just having some sex for fun, we're not really in a relationship group, and then bad stuff happened, and he got turned into a werewolf, and then he died, and Vivian ended up having to raise his child alone, and so there was kind of a tragic love affair sort of feel to them, even though they didn't mean to be a serious love relationship. And then, of course, Vivian later married Erebus, who was her towering grand romance, and they have sex for weeks in a gymnasium on black silken sheets, eating dark chocolate in the middle of Erebus, and it was fantastic. So they were all about each other, and that's a lot of fun to watch. Aurora was, if you've read any of Aurora's fiction, you can see that she kind of fell in love with her original band leader, which was the Vanir Scion Wolf, and unfortunately she started falling in love with him right around the time her prophecy informed her he was about to die, so that was just really tragic and sad, and continued being tragic and sad for like years of their run, because she would keep running into him in underworlds and stuff, and it was awful. Hela didn't want romance. She wanted to be a kid forever, and so she definitely actively avoided that.
Tell me when you're done. I have a speech.
You have a speech.
Right,
okay.
but it can't be. It'll probably be the end.
It'd be at the end. Okay. Who else is in that group? Theo and Will, neither one of them really had a lot of romance. Will ended up having some kids at the very end of his run, but they were more like, he was politically obligated to have some kids. It's not like he fell in love with anybody or anything like that. Why am I forgetting a person in that group? Am I forgetting someone?
Woody.
Oh, Woody. Woody's married. Woody married his wife, Akuba. And it was another one of those, Scion does it a lot because there's a lot of politics going on, where he married someone for divine political reasons. In this case, he was doing a ritual for the Inuit gods, and the end of the ritual required him to marry a local Inuit woman to like solidify himself as part of their people. And so he did, and he chose Ahuva, who was actually like an old, like she's kind of late 40s, early 50s, old widow. And so he picked someone that like, he was really ugly with negative epic appearance, and he knew he wasn't going to be around, and so he was like, I'm going to pick someone who's not going to like suffer from being stuck with me forever. And he actually took very good care of her for a long time, and they had a son together.
Mm-hmm.
And that went pretty well until way post Ragnarok. For a while, I was very fond of Woody and Ahuva.
Yeah.
Before everything went tragically wrong, and something I'm not going to tell you about yet.
Right.
The Eastern Promises games are young, so they're not getting there quite yet. I totally ship Padma and Shaddan. That's going to happen. I'm all over that. They're coming back in Wednesday of this week to start over again. It's going to happen. Padma and Shaddan, they're married. They're not supposed to be married. Really, just Padma, is a proper young English lady, and so her father wouldn't let her leave the house to go on adventures, because why would you do that? So Shaddan just pretended that he was a duke and that he was marrying her, so that her father would let her go. But then, like, by this point, she's been traveling around for like 2 years, so everyone's kind of like, you guys are kind of married, just go ahead and just kiss already, right? So we're watching that kind of happen, and of course, Leona and James, you guys have been probably watching them like Twitter volleyball back and forth, are definitely like courting each other. But due to problems with like the Queen of England being like, you can't marry a brown person, that hasn't gone anywhere yet.
Yeah.
They're trying, but... And the last one I can think of is, and then way back in the original group, Kibo and Kasara were like this secret fun romance that was happening, where like Kasara like just really liked him, and he was a big black dude, so that wasn't okay. She was from the 1800s in the South, so obviously not cool, but she was like, well, I'm going to fly in the face of convention anyway, and I'm going to make this man cake, and I'm going to hang out with him. And Kibo didn't really know what was going on, but he liked her. She was nice, and so I was actually talking to Kasara's player the other day, and she said, well, now that Kibo died recently, Kasara is just, because she's out of game, because that player moved, she's like, she'll just spend all her time trying to get into the Egyptian underworld, saving him. So that's fun to think of that happening in the background somewhere.
Oh, all good.
Yeah, and I mean, you can read Russell's fiction for his crazy-ass crush on Zoe. I think he's the only major romance going on in the game's storyline right now.
Yeah. So, I think, generally, people either have a habit of focusing on romance much too much in their characters, or painfully not enough. And I think that's very strange. I know it's hard to do, and it's a weird place to go to, especially when you haven't had those things before in your life.
Yeah, there's definitely, you can look at it, like we can look at it across like 6 years of a whole bunch of different players and games. There are some players that there's always romance somewhere in their story. There are some players that there's never romance unless the ST makes it happen.
Yeah, unless the ST makes it happen. That's why I feel like reading other people's game stories, it seems like that comes up a lot more. And I always feel uncomfortable with the ST making it happen. Yeah. I try to give the player as much choice as possible.
And when we do like an ST making it happen, like goes down to marry Cersei, it's because of things the PC did.
And it's always still a choice. Like, you could have just been hunted forever.
Yeah, he could have said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Just
go on, continue to try to kill me.
But I think bonds of friendship are easier to roleplay than bonds of romance, especially at the table, especially with other people.
Yeah, especially because just like in real life, you always have the problem of, well, if this romance goes south, then I still have to be in a band with like someone that I kind of now hate. Like, it's hard to be an ex with somebody that is right there.
Yeah, that's the one I was going to talk about. Is most difficult is having like people I think are really afraid of that. Like you don't want to. It's like people I remember in high school would be like, well, I don't want to start a relationship with them because they're my best friend. I want to ruin that.
Right, and if we break up, then we're going to be mad at each other and we're not going to be friends anymore. It's going to suck.
Like that's something I've never seen happen in game is like the breakup followed by the like still having to be together in a band, but like having the.
That's true.
We've played a lot of games, but it's never come up because it's scary and hard, and players tend to veer away from scary and hard. I think I have the best players in the world, but
we love you.
You're one of them.
Me too.
But I think even they tend to veer away from that because it's so hard and so much pressure on both characters, and sometimes there's no logical conclusion past one of us has to leave. And no one wants to force the other person or be forced to do that. They'd rather, keep playing their characters.
Yeah.
But as I would like to, on this Valentine's Day, even if it's not to you specifically, I would like you to think about your characters and just remember that humans have a natural tendency to need love, feel emotions, feel relationships. Biologically and emotionally, we need that.
Yeah, and as a Scion, you are partly a human, so you are not a god yet. Don't forget that. You're coming from a human place to begin with.
Yes. And even when you are, like, you're still, like, gods are known for tumultuous, tons of loving and needing love, and, like, you don't need to go to the extremes. There's a whole bunch of playing in the middle that is important, and to make yourself a real character, to make your characters really come alive, they should have that as part of theirs, even if we're not seeing it all the time.
Yeah.
It should be at least something you think about.
And if it's just something that's internal for you, like Russell knows that he is really into Zoe, but he hasn't brought it up in game, that's completely fine, because it becomes part of your character development. Even if it's not something that ever comes up for other characters to deal with.
Right.
And that's cool.
And it doesn't always have to be the most charismatic, attractive person.
Exactly.
It should, you should figure out who your character, what kind of things your character is attracted to, what kind of things your character values. And they should be attracted to those people. Like, obviously, appearance people are super hot. Charismatic people are lovable. But, some people just like a really hard body. Or some people are just really attracted to massive intelligence. And just figure out what you're attracted to. And your character should be, if not looking for those things, naturally running into them.
Yeah, if there's someone who does the things that you love, and maybe they don't have a million charisma, but they have like a bunch of common interests, and you like them, just generally like them.
Right.
You can be in love with them. There's no reason you can't be in love with someone.
You see, that's exactly what I'm trying to say. You don't need to go right in love with them. I mean, sometimes you have that, but
didn't mean that.
But you should, the middle ground is important. I'm trying to say,
yes.
People, it's very easy to go crazy one way or the other, to fall head over heels in love. But I think the middle ground is important. Asking people on dates, courtship, like all that's really important, and don't skip over it because it's hard.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a good experience out of trying it.
You'll get more development as a character out of going through that than I'm just saying I'm in love now. That doesn't mean anything really.
Yeah. Then that becomes about you and not them. It's weird.
Yeah.
So I would say as an experiment, or not an experiment, just look for that and try that out and see if it's interesting and fun.
Yeah.
I think people who play shorter games, not massive chronicles, have even more of a chance to do that because you can say at the end, well, I will never be with that person. Like, if it goes south, you have an out.
Yeah. Or if you can say, I didn't enjoy playing that, maybe I won't do that next time.
So, yeah, cool. Happy Valentine's Day again, everybody. We're going to have some delicious food and...
wine.
Boom.
See you guys next time.
I have a speech to make.